Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Adams Brothers Podcast. We are here this evening with Kaysia Early, and she is going to be running for county judge in the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, Group 26 here in Broward County, Florida. Kaysia, welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast.
Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here.
No, it's an honor to have you on our show. We like to have people come on and talk to us and tell us why you want to run for a judge and whatever office you're running for. So by all means, we're happy to have you here this evening. So Absolutely. Why don't you just go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about you, your background, your education. Where did you go to high school and college? Just tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. My father was born in Kingston, Jamaica, St. Catherine, and my mother was born here in New York. And I was born in Bronx, New York, and I lived there for about 5 years. And then we moved down to Florida. And after we moved to Florida, my father left me and the entire family. He had 8 children, and we essentially were raised in the inner city, or I like to call it the underdeveloped communities. And I knew early on that education was the key, because you realize once you get older that you are in poverty. I like to say that because you're in an underserved community and you know that there's others that are well-to-do. So I wanted to go to Howard University, and I eventually became the first generation in my entire family. I'm child number 4 out of the 8 to graduate from college.
Okay, and what college did you attend?
Howard University in Washington, D.C. Yes.
All right, Howard University.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, definitely. And that's an important point, because Howard University is a historically Black college. And for those who are listening and who don't know the purpose of historically Black colleges and universities, they were started or operated and formed because, as you know, minorities were not allowed to seek a higher education. So I definitely want to shout out to all of the HBCUs.
Right.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Dr. Greg Carr?
No, I did not.
I watch him all the time. He's very,
yes.
He's a attorney and he's a historian. Very good.
Yes.
I'd like to get him on our podcast one time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, is that where you got your law degree from, Howard University?
No, I ended up coming back down here. So I really wanted to get my law degree in Florida to give back to my community, because I felt that I left the inner city. I became successful after gaining my degree from Howard University, or earning my degree rather. I wanted to come back home, so to speak. So I went to law school in Miami Gardens, St. Thomas University, School of Law.
School of Law. Now,
yes.
Early on, before you became an attorney, you had a little run-in with the law. Do you want to tell the viewers about that?
Of course.
Because you've been very open about it. I've seen you on other podcasts, and I've seen you've been very open about it. So let's put it out there. Yes. Let's talk about it, and maybe it'll inspire some more people that had some run-ins with the law in their past, and can go on to be a successful attorney like you.
Let's talk about it. So when I got accepted into Howard University, unfortunately, my mother did not get approved for a loan. So I needed some jobs with an S. So in addition to going to school full-time, I had 3 jobs, 2 part-time, 1 full-time. Don't ask me how I did it. One of those part-time jobs, I was working at a shoe store. And when some of my friends found out where I was working, they would come up there and they would ask for my employee discount. And I gave them my employee discount on the register, and I did that several times. So when corporate found out, this was over 18 years ago, anything over $200 was considered a felony. Right. So obviously what they did was they deducted the amount that I discounted it by, and it was over $200. I was fired immediately. I was arrested immediately. And mind you, this was in my senior year of college. So I had just started my senior year, and I was preparing for graduation. And it was just an instant change. So I went from becoming the first generation of my entire family to graduate from college to an inmate. So after I was arrested, I was sentenced 2 weeks prior to my graduation. And the judge, I was facing 3 years in prison for the amount. My attorney at the time did not fight for me. And I'm not saying that I was right in the situation, but you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. So at least I believe he could have told the judge, listen, she's a first-time offender, she's in college, or, just fight for me to not go to jail. So the judge sentenced me 2 weeks before I was set to graduate from Howard to a period of incarceration. So that's when I became my own advocate. And I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, if you allow me to walk across the stage, I promise I will turn myself in and I will complete my sentence. And thankfully, he allowed me to walk across the stage. I turned myself in and I was sentenced to a period of 30 days solitary confinement. And the reason why it was solitary confinement was because I was also pregnant. So it was for the safety of my unborn child and myself.
Right. Wow. That's kind of interesting that you told that story, because we have a friend that it's a similar situation. They moved in from Jamaica, and the daughter was working at a retail store and, trying to go to college the same way. And she was having family members come through her line, and she was giving them a discount, and they arrested the mother and the father.
Yeah.
And something very similar. I mean, it's kind of like hits home, because I was told the story because actually the guy is one of my friends, our friends, I should say. And
and unfortunately, I will say that this happens quite often, and I'm not, stating that I should not have been punished.
Right.
But as you know, that there's a disproportionate number of punishment when it comes to minorities. So those are the facts. I'm not pulling the race card. I'm pulling the statistics.
Right. Did you ever think that was going to affect you in any kind of way in your professional career as like maybe an attorney or trying to get a good job? Do you think that would pop up on your record somewhere, and when you apply for a job, and, were you worried about that?
Of course. In fact, it took me 7 years to even apply for law school because, again, I didn't have mentors. So I immediately thought once I got arrested for a felony, my chances of becoming a lawyer were zero. So I never applied to law school. And so I said to myself, if I can't become a lawyer, I'm going to become the next best thing. So I ended up working as a paralegal in one of the prestigious law firms in Washington, D.C. And I did that for 7 years. And then I came across an article on the 7th year. And that article was about a former drug dealer. He was a big drug lord, and he ended up becoming a lawyer. So I'm saying to myself, well, wait a minute now. He was this big time drug lord, and all I did was discount merchandise. If he can do it, I can do it. This is why I've always been telling my story. We cannot be other people centered. I wanted to inspire someone else, just like he inadvertently, without knowing me, inspired me. So I applied to law school in Florida, and we moved from Washington, D.C. In June of 2011.
And when did you find out you were accepted to the law program?
2 weeks later. So what I did, I found that article in February, never forget. And so I applied, and then I called and I said, hey, I'm just calling to find out if you will accept me. I submitted my application, but I don't want to move down there and I won't get accepted. And the admissions counselor told me like this. He said, of course, we'll accept you. But if you come to law school and graduate and pass the bar, there's a possibility that you will not be sworn in because you have to then go before another board prior to being sworn in and prove that you are rehabilitated from your past indiscretions. So I held on to the promises of God that I received, stating that I would become a lawyer when I was incarcerated. And in what people would say, I took a bet on myself and I won. So I went to law school. At this time, I was already married. I had 3 children when I applied to law school and still working a full-time job and going to law school full-time. And I passed I graduated from law school. I passed the bar exam. And then I had to go before the board and basically convince them that I was rehabilitated.
Wow.
And I think I remember, I know I remember a case where a guy was wrongly incarcerated. I'm not for sure that's the same case you're talking about, but I remember a guy was, might have been a case of the drug dealer, but I remember a guy was in jail reading about it, and he turned into an attorney. That was a very inspiring story when I read it.
Yeah, that's a different one, but that's also inspiring because he did something on a whole different level. He actually became a lawyer and was sworn in. Obviously, the rules have changed since then, but he was falsely accused.
Right.
The other article that I came across, he basically turned his life around. And I'll say this, because now that I'm campaigning, I knew that it would come up, bottom line. And this is the only thing that's coming up because everything else in my life is impeccable. Right. I basically transformed into a community servant like I said I would. So now they're trying to change the narratives. And this is what politics is about. And that's why we want voters to become educated and just don't go by what you hear.
Right. And that's politics. I mean, the first thing they do is go and pull up your background and try to bring up something out of your past and try to get the upper hand politically. But you have been, like I said, you've been very open from the beginning. I've watched you on other podcasts. So whoever your opponent is, look, she's already put it out there. You can stop digging, or whoever it is. I'm not sure who it is, but I mean that's very inspiring. I mean it's wow. I mean, look at you now. You're an attorney. You have your own law firm, right? Earley Law Firm.
Yes. So I graduated from law school, got sworn in and accepted by the bar. And I first, again, decided to give back to my community. So instead of accepting this offer for this big law firm, 6-figure salary, I chose to work at the public defender's office because I felt that not only did I need experience, I chose my passion over money. And that, again, bet on yourself and you'll never lose. And in 8 years, I've been named the top attorney in the state of Florida, top 10, top 40 under 40, as you can see.
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry.
How was it working at the public defender's office? Because we had people on here before, and we heard some stories out of it. I mean, I don't know how is it now under Gordon Weeks, but how was it working there?
Coincidence. And for those of you who don't know, if you're local, he's helped me, Howard. He was wonderful. Let me tell you something about Howard. He has a passion for the people. He has a respect for the law, and he's an advocate for justice. And working under him, Gordon Weeks was actually my supervisor, who's now been elected as the head public defender. I started off in the juvenile division, and that was the best experience ever. And as a mother of 4, I not only looked at those juveniles as my clients, but as children, because it's a scary thing to be a child in the criminal justice system. And then you put your whole life, just like I did, but I was 19 years old, in someone else's hands. So I made a promise, not only to myself, but to the rule of law, that I would fight zealously for these kids. And I did just that. And in a span of 8 years, I've tried over 100 trials to verdict. And just to put that in perspective, it normally takes someone 10 to 15 years to try those many cases. And I did it in 8.
Wow.
And you are also, outside of your job, you are also a legal analyst.
That is correct. So I provide legal commentary for various stations, from Law and Crime podcast, also Court TV, and whenever I can find the time or fit the time into my busy schedule. Obviously, being a wife and a mother is priority. I never forsake my career for my children. And then my career, because I worked so hard for it. And then I try to give back. I also do community service. I've been named Broward County Mentor of the Year. I don't know how I did it this year. Amidst everything else, I was volunteering and mentoring 25 girls every month, and just showing them that we need more diversity in the legal profession, and just to inspire them.
Right. Wow. Which leads me to my first question. So, I mean, if elected, how would you address issues of Black defendants receiving harsher and longer sentences than white defendants who have committed the same crime?
You know, always said, if you look at the crimes and allegations as opposed to the person, you'll be fair and you'll be consistent. It's very important to listen to the facts and evidence. And if that person is found guilty, then you have to analyze all of the mitigating circumstances. And what I mean by that is everyone is different and they come with a different story. So if someone is found guilty in my court, but they're also a career criminal, then maybe you need to be behind bars because obviously it did a good thing for me to instead of being slapped on the wrist. And I'm not looking at your color, I'm looking at your past history. But if you're a first-time offender and your entire family comes and vouch for you, and then I'm swayed by the testimony because it's credibility, then I have that discretion to say, you know what? Yes, you were found guilty, but you have to be punished, but not necessarily jail. When you look at a person's skin as opposed to the content of their character, then you're doing a great injustice to the rule of law. So I definitely will not only bring compassion, empathy, experience from both sides of the fence, I will also bring knowledge because, again, I've tried so many trials that I have more experience in litigation than my opponent.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, when you're elected judge, I'm speaking.
That's right.
Existence.
So am I.
When you're elected judge, you spoke earlier of not being represented well with your case. If you observe the party in your courtroom being poorly represented or by an unprepared attorney or ineffectual lawyer, how would you handle that situation?
On a case by on a case by case basis, and that's called ineffective assistance of counsel. So if counsel's representation is so egregious that it cannot be ignored, I will lay the record. And what I mean by that is every proceeding in criminal court is recorded. So I will lay that record as to his egregious behavior. And then most likely that defendant, if he is found guilty, he can file an appeal. And then the appeals court can pull the transcript, see the record, and state that, you know what, I agree with the lower court. There was ineffective assistance of counsel, but I have to be careful because I can't be a lawyer and judge at the same time. But I have the discretion to put on the record to preserve the rule of law.
That's very good. I'm glad to hear that. Also, did you when you first entered law school, did you have any judicial role models?
I did not. Again, my entire family, I'm the first one to graduate from college. Although I was the fourth child, no one ever graduated from college. There were no lawyers, no professionals whatsoever. And I am the first person to graduate from law school to become a lawyer. And I will be the first person or the first judge in my family. But I did have other role models. So not necessarily in the field of law, but throughout all of the jobs that I had people pour into my life. That's why I take mentorship so serious, because those people who poured into my life, those people who spoke a word of encouragement to keep me going, that's what made me into the person I am today. So one thing about me, you'll know, I just keep giving back. I don't know where I find the time, the energy amongst the 4 children and the jobs and campaigning. And I still always, make myself available to volunteer because I'm other people centered.
Yes. Well, you definitely can see the passion just talking to you. I mean, talking to you is one thing, talking off the air, but you listen to you right now talking, you have the passion. I feel that passion here. And the good thing, everyone that we had on, and I felt that passion, got elected to a better spot.
That's right.
We had the current state attorney, can't think his name, good as I know,
Harold Pryor, yes.
And he was speaking, and I felt that passion from him. And I said right then, this guy elected, he's gonna make a difference. I mean, I hope he's doing that. I haven't been following a lot of cases, but I feel that same passion with you.
Yes, let me tell you something. I always say what comes from the heart goes to the heart. You don't know how many cases as a private attorney I've tried for absolutely free. And I didn't realize how much money I quote unquote lost until the end of the year when my accountant had to waive thousands of dollars in legal fees. I'm talking about six figures worth. I just did it for free because I always thought, I said, if I don't take this case, this innocent man is going to be in jail for the rest of his life. And I believe no one can do the job as best as I can. And I feel the same way as a lawyer. And I feel the same way as a judge who conquers prior incarceration and then becoming a successful lawyer without passion. And so it's the passion that drives me. That's it.
Right. And I was going to ask you, how many pro bono cases have you taken? Do you have a number in your head? Like, I mean, just roughly.
I don't have a number because I don't go by the person. I go by the profit since I'm a private attorney. So I know that I've waived over $100,000 in legal fees within the years that I've been a private attorney, because that's just for justice.
That's impressive. That's impressive. And we ask a lot of people that want to get into politics that question on here. That's attorneys, and they don't ever give us, a amount or figure, a dollar amount, but that's impressive. Over $100,000. That's impressive.
Yeah, I'm very transparent because I always challenge people to Google me. And I say that because even before I became a lawyer, I realized that when you are true to thine own self, you attract a different type of energy. So there's nothing to hide. And when you have to continuously dig up stuff on people, you're doing a disservice to the greater good. So I've helped so many people. In fact, coincidentally, the people that I helped for free, look at how the tables have been turned. When they found out that I was running for judge, I started getting calls because they saw my billboards throughout Broward County. And they would say, Miss Early, I want to help you. Give me 500 cards. I'll pass them out absolutely free. So it came back to me after 8 years of giving back to my community. So this is the purpose of doing good.
That's what you call good karma right there.
Come on. Yes.
Have you spoken at a lot of churches? Because I know that's where the power of the people from the civil rights days was born, from the church, the pulpit.
Well, I've been attending a lot of churches. So as a judge, we have so many rules. So oftentimes when it comes to churches, they're not allowed to endorse because they're a nonprofit organization. And I don't want to get anyone in trouble because they don't really know the rules. I didn't know the rules until I started running for judge. But there's been times that I've given my testimony to the church and let them know that, there's something brewing in my life, or I'm running for judge in a one-on-one conversation, but we have to be careful with the rules because basis for disqualification.
Right. Yes. Do you believe that there's implicit bias within the judicial system? And if so, how would you address it? How would you try to correct it?
I try to keep a straight face when you ask that one, because yes, exclamation point, and yes again. Of course there is. Unless the numbers change, we cannot deny it. And I know that when you talk about race, it tends to become an uncomfortable situation. And the reason is because nobody wants to face the truth. Once we face the truth and actually do something about it, we won't have to have this conversation anymore. So let's bring it to the table. There is implicit bias. We are the minority. And when I say me, I'm talking about African Americans, not even Hispanics. We are the minority in population, but we are the majority in the prison population. That is not by accident, because judges hold the most power, because they have the discretion to either sentence you to jail or a term of probation. So when they sentence someone to jail, it's up to them, and they can use any excuse as to why they believe this person deserves prison. But the real question is whether or not you have that bias against that particular minority. It is absolutely overwhelming. I'm talking about numbers. In Broward County, there's 90 judges, 90 for all you voters out there. There is only 10 Black judges. I'm not counting magistrates. So there's between 10 and 12 Black judges. That's not even a quarter. So if there's only, let's estimate high. If there's only 12 Black judges out of 90, therein lies your problem. And coincidentally, when I was in law school, my paper was about diversity on the bench, not knowing that I would be running in 8 years. I just knew there was a problem. Diversity is absolutely necessary so you can come with a different perspective, so you can come with a different outlook and experience to the bench. So there is implicit bias, there's racism, and there's a lack of diversity on the bench.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever withdrew from a case because you disagreed with your client?
Well, as a public defender, it's kind of hard to withdraw from a case because you're appointed. You're appointed by the state of Florida, the public defender's office. But as a private attorney, you're being paid, you're retained, there's a difference. But I did request as a public defender to get off of one case only because as a mother, the facts were so egregious, I did not feel that I would be effective as counsel. So unless there's a compelling reason, you can, but if you just don't like that person, you're a professional, deal with it. Represent him. And you're not representing him, you're representing the Constitution. But let me tell you, as a private attorney, one thing I found out as a female, and speaking of statistics, let me give you another one. African-American females make up less than 4% of the profession. So if we make up less than 4% of the legal profession, it's even lower for judges, just to get that out there. So as a top criminal defense attorney, I've been judged based on the content of my skin. And they don't know the type of person I am until I go to trial and I'm popping up like popcorn. Objection, objection, objection. And that is my greatest weapon, because I always say I'm underestimated and I'm presumed incompetent until I'm proven competent. I know the law, but it's the bias in looking at me as a female, like, oh, what are you doing here? I've been mistaken as a victim, as the court reporter, and never addressed as the attorney, even though I look like one dressed up, even though I have my briefcase and I'm walking in that courtroom with authority. I'll never be as good as the person who thought I was a court reporter. But then I can have my colleague who's in wrinkled jeans, not slacks, and he'll walk in, oh, he must be a lawyer. And I've learned early on, and I just want to be honest, because if I get this off my chest, maybe we can move forward.
Get it off.
Get it off. As minorities, we have to always do 10 times better to just be on an equal playing field. And it has to come a time where I don't have to do 10 times as much, but you know what? I said, I accept the challenge every morning I wake up. So I've been motivating people to get into the law, become a public defender or a prosecutor or a lawyer, so we can change that dynamic.
And what injustice, have you ever witnessed any injustices in or outside the courtroom? And what was your response to it?
Well, when I was a public defender, I didn't choose my clients. And a public defender represents indigent clients, basically a fancy term for poor people that can't afford a private attorney. And I had this one client, and he had these wicks. For those of you who are not familiar, outside of Florida, it's a chunk of hair that is locked together and it sticks up. He had gold teeth. But when I tell you he was the nicest person ever, I just knew, picking the jury, that when they walked in and they saw my client, the way he looked, I could read facial expressions. They had their arms crossed. And I'm saying to myself, I said, this is going to be an uphill battle. So I got up there and I stood behind my client and I addressed him by his last name and gave him the utmost respect. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, by a show of hands, how many of you all would say that my client looks different? You know, I try to choose a safe word, right? And people wouldn't really raise their hand. And I said, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to raise your hand because you have been sworn in to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we're all adults. We can agree to disagree. And I asked the question again, and you know how many hands went up? So then I had to educate them about my client's culture. He was actually Haitian, and that was his self-expression. And once I educated the jury, he was ultimately found not guilty.
That's good.
Wow. Outside of graduating from college and law school, What is your greatest accomplishment?
My family. When I tell you that I would not be a lawyer, my husband, he was the same one dropping me off to jail when I had to turn myself in. And, he could have said, you know what, we're dating, you're a criminal, or you're labeled as a criminal, it's been good. He could have went the other way. But because he believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself, 18 years later and 4 beautiful children later, that is my greatest accomplishment.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Yes.
Kaysia Early, why should the voters of Broward County vote for you?
You must vote because I am the most experienced attorney in Broward County. And I say that with the absolute confidence. As I told you, I stopped counting after 100 trials. And even after that, there were cases that were set for trial that was dismissed on the day of trial. So that number can go up to over 300. Not only am I an experienced litigator, I'm a community servant. I was not named Broward County Mentor of the Year based on my looks, based on my race. I was named Broward County Mentor of the Year based on my work. In addition to that, we need to bring respect back to the bench. There's no way that you can be in a position of power and speak to people in a derogatory manner and then challenge someone to run against you because you're so confident that no one will run against you because you're a bully. So I say to everyone, voters, exercise the utmost power you can as a citizen of the United States and vote early, because statistics show that when you vote early, you've won the race. And so my name is Kaysia Early, and I'm asking everyone to vote early for Early.
I was just going to say, what's your slogan? And you just told them.
That's it.
When do the voters of Broward County need to go to the polls, and when is early voting? When does early voting start, and when does the primary start?
Well, first and foremost, you have to register, right? And you can go to my website. It's the spelling of my first and last name, Kaysia Early, or you can Google the supervisor of elections, or just Google how to register to vote in Broward County. This is a Broward County-wide election. We're talking about from county line all the way to Parkland. So first, make sure you're registered, because if you're not registered, you can't vote. After you registered, call someone else, make sure they're registered. Early voting begins August 13th. You can do mail-in ballots. You can do absentee ballots. You don't even have to do the early voting, but that's August 13th through the 20th. And then the actual primary day is August 23rd, 2022. So remember those dates.
That's all I have. Do you have anything else for Kaysia?
That's it.
Is there anything else that you want to tell us?
Anything else
That you want to tell us that you want to tell us?
I mean, you impressed me. You got my vote. I'll tell you that right now. I feel that. I feel that energy,
that passion,
yeah. Like I told you that I felt with Harold Pryor and a few more other judges, people that went on to be judges. I feel that passion. So you have my vote right now.
Well, I truly appreciate you for saying that, because I'm telling you, when I tell you I love what I do, I love what I do. And I want everyone to understand that you should never, ever become a victim of your circumstances in life, because we weren't created perfect. That's the bottom line. We all sin and fall short of God's glory. So we sin daily in thought or in deed or omission or what we do, then we're going to mess up on a daily basis. It's what you do with that second chance, with that third chance. It's how you forgive people that have, made a mistake. It's all about forgiveness, and it's all about being a better person to be a better person within society. So if I could say anything else to your listeners, keep going, run your race. It may not be a judicial race, but it may be your race to the ladder of success. Just keep going, never quit. That's it.
Very well said. I can tell you that much. I hope me or nobody in my family ever needs an attorney or needs you. But if we ever need an attorney, I would definitely recommend you, highly recommend you for, to be their attorney. But you're going to be the judge. So you won't be.
That's right.
You won't be,
All
you're gonna be
right.
practicing law, so We hope,
Yeah,
you know, our viewers, they're gonna, well, we know they're gonna watch the video, and the best
Yeah.
way that our viewers can do is to help us is to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell, and that'll notify you every time we upload a video like this, the one that we're doing today with Kaysia Early, who's running for Broward County judge here in Broward County, Florida, the 17th Judicial Court.
that's right.
And she's running for County Judge Group 26 here in Broward County, Florida. Kaysia Early, we want to thank you for coming on the Adams Brothers podcast. Good luck to you. And when you win, don't forget about us
Come
now.
back.
We want you to come back. Come
Oh,
back
I'm
and
coming
talk
back.
to us. Some of
I'm
the other
coming back.
judges that have been on here, we haven't seen them since they got elected.
Oh, my word is my bond. I'm coming back in that black robe.
I believe you
Okay.
too. I believe
I'm
you
coming
too.
back.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Thank you.
thank you, Kaysia Early, for coming on the Adams Brothers podcast. We wish you the very best. And thank you so much for coming on the Adams Brothers podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful rest of the week, I should say. Good luck to you in August. And we hope to see you on that bench here in Broward County, Florida.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. And thank you for coming on our podcast.
Likewise.